is an only child raised by bright, creative, modern, artsy parents through the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Like many who were born in that era, big wars were a thing of the past. Recessions came and went, and bedtime stories was how parents taught about the hard stuff. Today, Judith is sharing a personal memory, the bedtime story. Judith Stein-Farrall.
You may want to move. Daddy, tell me a story. When I was 7 years old, that was the routine. I called out to my father, I climbed into bed, and he came and told me a bedtime story. This particular night, he walked in, and said, "Judy, when I'm old, will you take care of me? Will you tell me bedtime stories?" This really happened, I swear, but it's a really big thing to ask a 7-year-old child. I kind of stared at him. "Sure, Dad, of course I will." Now, the routine that night, like every other night, was that I would jump into bed and he would either read or he would make up a story. And sometimes if he read from a book called Swiss Family Robinson. Those of us of a certain age remember the Disney-fied version of it. Don't bother. It's got nothing to do with the book. The book is fantastic, and the lessons I learned from it about childcare, modeling for your kids, about patience, about troubleshooting, about problem solving were amazing. And my father and I went through that book lots and lots of times, to the point that the book cover got all worn out. If he was not reading that story to me, he was telling me a series of stories that he made up about a magical horse that was one of a toy horse I had in my house, and how this horse would take me on magical adventures. Every night the story started the exact same way. One night, little Judy, remember from my first speech, little Judy, went to sleep, and in the middle of the night, in her dreams, she woke up, and there, standing at the foot of her bed, fully saddled and snorting, was this magical horse. And it would take me on wonderful adventures and then bring me back home to get back into bed and fall asleep. Fast forward 40 plus years. And my 97-year-old father, perfectly healthy, and his 90-year-old wife, my stepmother, came to the conclusion that the best thing they could do to make their lives easier was to move away from their Lincoln Center apartment in New York City, high-rise apartment where downstairs there were grocery stores, great food, great entertainment, just an elevator ride away, to Deerfield Beach, Florida, where they no longer had a driver's license, and they knew absolutely no one except my stepmother's daughter. They got here, they announced this to me, and I take them to the airport in April of 2013. And I tell them, I'll be down there as often as possible. I'm hoping every 2 months. Well, they get here, they get down to Florida, and they are not as happy as they intended to be. Their health starts failing immediately. My stepsister isn't as frequently available, even though she lives 15 minutes away, as they need her to be. So I get down here, I come down, the first visit, one of them's in the hospital, the second visit, one of them's in the hospital. In November of 2014, my stepmother dies. They've been here less than a year. Or just about a year. In March of 2015, I come down to visit. My father is not very happy. He's got a lot of pain. And I end up plopping myself down in his doctor's office and waiting for her attention because she has not responded to his phone calls about pain management. So I walk in and I talk to her about it, and she goes, well, have you considered hospice? And I'm like, what do you mean hospice? That's for people who are dying, right? So I go from that point on, I'm like trying to help my father, coming up with alternatives. I go back to New Jersey for a day, and from New Jersey I schedule palliative care for my father to help with his pain management. Now he's got lots of help. He's got aides and supposedly my stepsister. And I get a call within 24 hours of the hospice team taking over saying, you need to come back down. So I come back down, and I immediately set up camp in his bed, in his rooms, in his apartment. And I establish a routine of going out for breakfast, getting Starbucks, coming back, and then spending the day wandering from bedroom to his room to talk to the aides, etc. And then the morning of March 15th, I come home to his place with a cup of Starbucks, and I sit down in his rooms, and his aides leave me alone, which they don't normally do. And I download onto my Kindle a copy of Swiss Family Robinson, and I sit down, and I take his hand, and I start to read. About 2 chapters in, he stops breathing. Dad, tell me his story. Thank you.